Hi guys, welcome back to CMD and another video. You join me back in the 992 911 Carrera S on what is a slightly special day for me because I am officially a year older. I know, don't look it, 21 again. I've decided to take a day away from work and family and all those other really important things that happen on a day-to-day basis and do something that I haven't done before. So I'm going to Podium Place to see what that is all about, pick up some special coffee and have a play on the simulator. I decided to make a stop off, check it's Ombersley, pick up a nice coffee and a sausage roll. Let's get to Podium Place. Oh yeah. If you haven't been to Podium Place before, go. See you, buddy. Cheers, buddy. Thanks, mate. It's a very nice gentleman. Oh, look at his Ducati. That is a bit special. Oh, my baby. Now we've got that out of the way. So to the crux of the matter, the idea of today was to talk to you about the ownership experience and how I found the last 5,000 miles in the 911, because I did buy it to be all things to all men. The ultimate daily sports car, can GT it, B-road blast it, track day it, and I have done all of those things. And you do see lots of reviews on a 992, don't you? I've certainly watched all of them, I think. And the reality is, with the exception of one, none of them have owned it. And initial impressions are always very different to living with something, aren't they? And there's pros and cons. So I bought the car from Porsche Centre, Nottingham. That was 9-10 months ago now. Tom Hale has been as good ongoing as he has been initially. Got a genuine ongoing dialogue with Tom on a day-to-day basis. He's literally still the absolute mustard, and I can't say enough about those guys. And there is more content to follow from Porsche Centre Nottingham, all things being well, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. So dealership, considering I'm, you know, in no means an important person to them, in sort of, I've bought one car and probably only will for a while unless they offer me a GT3 slot, Nottingham. But the reality is I'm not a big fish to them, nor will I probably ever be. Running the car, let's talk numbers. What have I spent? I bought the car on tyres that had 5mm left. One track day took care of a good 3mm of those. It was in the wet, admittedly, so that helped. And before I took it to the next track day, replaced the rubber. I went to Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's instead of the Eagle F1s. I personally think that's a better change. The Eagles were very good, but the Michelins have definitely been a step up in performance in both wet and warm, dry conditions. There's a noticeable level of additional traction from the Michelins. They feel a little bit more confident and the ride just feels a little bit better for them. I don't know if they've got a thicker tyre wall or what, but they sit a bit nicer on those tyres. Those cost me £1,200 and another £200 to fit. Not cheap, but the rears are, I mean, they're slabs, they're 305s, they're absolutely massive, so no surprises there. I've not had to go through service yet. You can run it on normal fuel. You obviously run it on performance, which I tend to do around track days. So I tend to mix. If I know I'm just GTing it and I'm not going to work the car hard on a day-to-day basis, I'll put normal standard dirt, a bog standard fuel in the car. It's a 70-litre tank, does anywhere between 250 and 350 miles, depending on what type of driving I'm giving it. MPG, I've driven 100 miles here today, and the car achieved about 25. I've seen as high as 35 on long motorway runs when I'm not in a rush. I'll just sort of chill, 60, 70 mile an hour. B-road blasting, generally day to day, I'm probably getting anywhere between 20 and 25. Let's talk about negatives of living with the car before I talk to you about the good stuff, because it's a really short list. I mean, the car is obviously, in my opinion, very good at what it does, but there are a few places where I feel like Porsche have let themselves down. The first one is one that a lot of people note when they get in the car, is the 5 dials at the front. You get a view of 3 of them, and then the other 2 on the peripheral you can't see without doing this, which is great. But if you want to look at data, you don't really want to be cocking your head for something that should be right in front of you. You don't get a heads-up display, so I feel like the dials are probably a little bit busy for my liking. I know what they've done, I can see what they've done. It's very Porsche, very heritage, but for me, probably a little bit busy. And you can change what they tell you, and if it's got a sat nav or what range you've got or what tyre temperatures you're running, can show you your sports chrono, you know, you can customise it all, and that's great, but it's pretty pointless on the premise that you can't see it. Sorry, Porsche. The other thing, and it is genuinely only other thing I can criticise about the car, is some of the materials in here are a little bit cheap. So I feel like some of the switches and dashes, I mean the steering wheel, which like the thing that you hold has got this nasty crappy plastic on it, and there's 1 or 2 instances where you feel like some of the materials are a little bit light, and for a car of a, you know, £100,000 new price tag, it's my only real critique of it. Overall, everything else is spec choices. It really is. The infotainment has worked relatively well. I still don't think the system is as good as a BMW iDrive earlier generations. I'm not convinced on the newer stuff, but I don't use it, so it's not really fair to say. Right, let's talk about the good stuff. Some of the good stuff I've already talked about. The car can do, I mean, I'm in 8th gear now, doing 65 mile an hour, and I'm below 1,500 revs. The car is really, really easy to chill in. There is a sporty ride to it, so it's not, you know, Bentley Continental GT soft. I think I've spoken to a few people who've contacted me through the channel to say they're debating between a Bentley and a Porsche. I mean, if you're looking at a Bentley, there's no way you're going to buy a Porsche once you've driven the Bentley, because if you're after just a comfy GT car, the Bentley would mince this car. It's comfortable for what it is, but it's not plush. They're not the same car, so it's a bit of a peculiar one for me. I get why people are looking at them, but it's a bit of a peculiar one for me. I've just become conscious that I'm wearing sunglasses, and I no longer need to. One moment. Excuse that small interlude. The seats are a bit of a must if you are going to GT this car. These are 18-way adjustable, and they are super comfortable. If you can't get comfortable in this seat, then yeah, you can't get comfortable in a seat, quite frankly. You sit nice and low. I've got all sorts of different support in all different places, and you can literally bespoke that to whatever you need. Stores on the side, easy to live with. I've been very impressed with range, day-to-day usability. You can poot along in this thing. I'm doing 70 mile an hour now, cruise control, in 8th gear, 1,500 revs. Drives like an Audi, okay? It's a little bit louder, admittedly. That's great for me, I love it, but not necessarily to everyone's taste. But I think where this sort of car comes alive, and what you really want to buy it for is, you know, you can toggle your sports chrono into sport on a day-to-day basis, which is really show-off mode. Sport Plus is for the track. It sort of hardens suspension off and everything else. And if you want to sort of poke it, and again, this plays into day-to-day, but if you just want to punch it, case in point, you want to overtake a car, it's just effortless. It's so easy just to, well, A, lose your license, but B, make progress with in general. You know, if you need to overtake something, I haven't really driven anything that's as easy to do it in. Maybe an A45 because of the 4-wheel drive and how quickly those things pick up. But the pace of this thing is just relentless, and I have used it for everything. So it has been my daily commuter. I've actually stopped using it for that now in the last couple of weeks. We've had a Tesla arrive, and that's become my sort of day-to-day. And then, if you do get it to track, now this car is not necessarily a track weapon, okay? It's not a GT product even. It's the Carrera S, so two-wheel drive, 450 brake horsepower, punching through these 305 slabs. This thing is ridiculous on track. There's no other word for it. It is literally like cheating. That's how fantastic it is to drive. I've done 2 track days with it now, Silverstone with Mission Motorsport and Gold track days, and Bedford Autodrome with MSV and the Straight 6 crew. The car just, I rock up as I am, as stock, admittedly new rubber when I got to Bedford, sighting laps, air out of the tyres to get it to sort of where I want them to be when they're warm, went out. I did more laps at Bedford than I've done in any car on any track day, and at no stage did the brakes feel like they were struggling, or the only reason I had to stop and slow down and sort of calm myself a little was because of how much fuel I was going through, because of how many laps I'd been doing. And it's just, I mean, the car looked after me. It made everything so effortless. And if you have got one of these cars, or you are thinking about getting one of these cars and you're worried it's not going to really cut the mustard on track, you could go the other way, couldn't you? You could go GT products, but the reality for me is I'll get 3 or 4 track days in a year, hopefully, if I'm fortunate enough to do so. You know, the rest of the time I'm going to be driving the car like this, B-road blasting, weekends, you know, trips out with my friends. It's not going to be used on track, and the reality is when I got it to track for those 3 or 4 days a year, bloody brilliant. And for the rest of the time, I haven't got to sit in a GT product worrying about the state of my eardrums. And that's been the, you know, I wondered whether it could be best of both and whether it might sort of get shown up on track. At Bedford more recently, I spent time with a GT4, Cayman GT4, 718 around the track. You know, nothing in it between the 2 cars. This had the legs, to be honest. I think that's because of the turbocharging, and being a slightly more capable car because of being a 911 and sort of the rear wheel steer and some of the technology in it sort of gave it the edge and just a little bit more punch down the straights. I literally can't fault it. And I mean, I'm 5,000 miles into my ownership experience. The car's ticked over 21,000. It hasn't missed a beat, as you would expect, and I think that's a relief in some respects, but there is a worry that it maybe wouldn't have lived up to the expectation, and the reality is it's been far from that. It's been utterly brilliant, and I'm really pleased and really relieved about that. From a ownership perspective, it's been everything I would expect, and a little bit more. No doubt I'll check in another 6 to 12 months, subject to still having the car, which I think will be the case. It's very hard to say, isn't it? But I guess so. I hope that's been interesting, guys. I've had a great day out. Happy birthday to me from me. If nothing else, I hope you've enjoyed a day out and learned a little bit about the ownership of this car and seen a bit of Podium Place. Huge thank you to those guys for having me in for the day. It's been really interesting, really cool, and I've had a great experience. For those of you who are new to Car Mad Dad, we've been set up as a YouTube channel with a difference. All the revenue we generate from videos like the one you're watching right now all lands into a designated bank account. All of those funds, every single penny, is being donated to local, national and international causes. So far we've raised and donated over £2,500 just through you guys watching videos, which to me is just baffling. But we're obviously very early on this journey, and so any help with sharing videos or telling your friends or popping up links on forums or anything like that at all, any help generating us traffic and getting people to watch the videos is really greatly appreciated. I can't do it without you. So thank you very much. Cheers for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Cheers.